What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review a 2010 mixtape by Wiz Khalifa. Basically, this product is called Kush and Orange Juice, and it came out in the spring of 2010. So the thing about this particular project is this project was a trending topic on Twitter for a good while back in 2010 and pitches like that. This is definitely stands one of the best mixtapes of all time, and it definitely stands to reason that this is a pretty solitary project. I'd have to say definitely some heralded type stuff to get on here. The unfortunate thing about this particular project is it doesn't have a single. This was kind of somewhat before mixtapes were full-blown starting to get singles. Wiz Khalifa was still somewhat on the come-up back in 2010. His breakout projects were like Rolling Papers, and then the album he did with Snoop Dogg, Mac, and Devin Go to High School in particular. But Wiz Khalifa was pretty large in 2010. He had dropped an album in late 2009. I'm going to have to get to that one. There's some pitches I'm going to have to get to. But Wiz Khalifa is definitely a pretty apt mixtape artist. He was a part of that mixtape trend throughout the late 2000s, early 2010s as far as that pitch went. He was definitely cranking out some good mixtapes as far as that particular kind of went. Some of his went diamond. I want to say that this particular mixtape went diamond on Dat Piff, which meant it got over 1 million downloads back in those particular days. So this be able to say that's some pretty good promotion for that in particular. So he definitely became a trending topic pretty quickly throughout the early 2010s as far as that pitch went. It was just a good concept kind of get this. I do agree that this is probably a classic mixtape here in particular. There's some good concepts, definitely some great smoking type tunes I'd have to say, and not just for the morning, despite the fact that this project is called Kush and Orange Juice, which implies that it's for some wake and bake type stuff, this early morning type fare. I was also able to find some other smokish type moments, including after work sessions and hot summer days and some pitches like that, and even a winter type song on here to kind of have in particular. So it's got some good concept, definitely a lot of wooziness. There's some nightclub smoking songs, some pitches like that, pretty variety type stuff to really have here. It's really like your loud pack for mixtape type fare for smoke sessions, I'd have to say. If you want a mixtape that has a lot of good heavy smoke tunes and pitches like that, and it's free and pitches like that, I would definitely say this is a pretty good example of that in particular. But I will say that some of this is a little bit more lo-fi and more soulful. I just would have to say in particular, that's the thing about this particular project, is just the fact that if you're looking for like a glitzy kind of nightclub type song, something like Rick Ross's Hustlin', or something like Laffy Taffy by D. Pharrell, some of those type pitches from the 2000 type era. It is kind of different. This is kind of a trend-setting type album here. It was something that was kind of shifting the ties to differential type things that kind of happened in like the early 2010s. Initially, when I tried listening to this project, I have tried downloading this mixtape a couple times, but I didn't mess with it as full-blown. Not to say I didn't like it, but it just had an acquired taste towards it that I just didn't have I just wasn't as accustomed to back in 2010 and 2011 as far as that pitch kind of particularly went along with it. But I would have to say some good stuff here. Do definitely appreciate a lot of this. Just some great smokish type tunes. So that was the thing about Wiz Khalifa when he came about in 2010, 2011, 2012, late 2000, some of those type pitches. I'd have to say the concept about it was his sound was kind of different from the sounds that were kind of going on in like the late 2000s, like Rick Ross and Juvenile and some of those type folks, Lil Wayne, the Carter 3 type stuff, some of those type pitches as far as that particular kind of went, Shawty Low, some of those type folks, Gucci Mane, I'd have to say is just kind of a differential concept, and he kind of helped shift some sounds in like the early 2010s with albums like Mac and Devin and Rolling Papers and some of those type ones. Just kind of an interesting concept. But this is another extremely noteworthy project for Wiz Khalifa, I'd have to say. So like I was saying, the unfortunate thing about this particular project is it doesn't appear like there's any music videos, or there might have been music videos. I'd have to look on YouTube as far as that pitch kind of goes that didn't know it was full blown, but Wikipedia at least said that there wasn't a single for this. This kind of came out as far as that pitch kind of went. But basically there's 15 songs in here because there's 20 songs on this mixtape and there's 5 skits. There's 3 songs on here that are just called Skit 1, Skit 2, Skit 3. Then there's a Slim skit, and then there's an outro and some pitches like that. So there's 15 songs on this particular mixtape, and out of those 15, I wound up recommending to you 10. Basically, one of which, I would actually say there's 14 songs in here because Wake and Bacon is just kind of an instrumental, but I did appreciate that one, so I'm going to count that one as a song. So basically, either 9 out of 14 or 10 out of 15, I'd have to say, but basically I'm going to say 10 out of 15. So basically the 10 songs I recommend on here would be Mesmerized, Wake and Bacon, We're Done, Spotlight, The Kid Frankie, Up, Never Been, In the Cut, Visions, and Still Blazing. So basically the song that I don't know if it had a music video, but it feels like a single on here would be the song Up. This is like a laced up kind of smoke ready lo-fi club tune, I'd have to say in particular. This is definitely like a trend shifting This is definitely like a trend shifting type song. I'd have to say in particular, this is a woozy but social kind of good initial evening breeze of a song. The song is woozy but social, I'd have to say in particular, and this is like a good initial kind of evening breeze of a song, I'd have to say. So it's a pretty good concept for this. This definitely feels like some Wiz Khalifa type fare off of songs like the documentary that Wiz Khalifa was on with Snoop Dogg back in 2011, and also some of the Mac and Devin type stuff from 2011, and then like Rolling Paper, some of those type pitches. This is just like a good head start to get some of that Wiz Khalifa type fare of the sound that he started to shift on like the mixtape scene in like the early 2010s. Good concept for that. I do like this song, but it was just different from mixtape club songs because this is basically like a club song, but it's also a smoke ready type one. It's just interesting kind of getting like a lo-fi kind of club song as far as that pitch kind of went. Not a ton of folks were really doing that. This is kind of something that reminds me a little bit of Odd Future within a relative sense. This is more of like a smoke ready type one, I'd have to say. Definitely has some pretty good appeal just within that relative sense. Pretty nice highlighted type one to be woozy in a club and some pitches like that. Just really smoking up and pitches like that just in a lo-fi sense. The Kid Frankie's a pretty nice one. This is like an electro kind of 70s like tune. I'd say it's like a nice 70s like mixtape bop. I'd have to say in particular. It's not all mixtapes that kind of sample 70s type stuff. So it's definitely, if you like the 70s music, disco type flair, stuff like that, but in like a mixtape format, this is a good example of that. It's like a snazzy kind of dance grooviness about this particular song, and this is just like a snappy kind of club jive, I have to say. So the song really has some good appeal. There were some songs like this once again on like the documentary by Snoop Dogg and pitches like that, and I'd also had to say maybe possibly Mac and Devin. I don't remember that album as much. I need to purchase that album. I would have to say it's a good concept kind of get that, just to be able to say that the Kid Frankie. I definitely do remember like the documentary having some songs like that, and possibly Rolling Papers, just some pitches. I mean, Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg have done pitches like this before. It's just a good example of like some good jazzy 70s type flair as far as that particular kind of goes. The first song you hear on the mixtape, Wake and Bacon, is a nice one. This doesn't really have Wiz Khalifa as much rapping on this particular song, but he does have some background vocals on there. It's like a wheezing kind of breakfast malaise of a song, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a get ready for IHOP type stuff, I'd have to say. Pretty good concept, getting ready to go to IHOP, some pitches like that, get some good breakfast fill up after smoking. It's like a lightsome good, I would definitely have to feel like in zone out type song, I'd have to say. So if you're getting ready, step out in like the morning type flash, this is a good example of just some stuff to kind of get here, just for like some smoke ready type flair, just within that relative pitch. Some excellent type concepts kind of get just within a relative sense. This is definitely one of those ones for Kush and orange juice, I'd have to say. Another one for Kush and orange juice and just breakfast type flair is Mesmerized, I'd have to say. It's like an initial kind of get hella stoned tune. I'd have to say it's like some great breakfast and torch up type tunes. I'd have to say a pretty good concept for that. And this is like a woozy as hell type production, I'd have to say. Definitely appreciate some of these. These are just some excellent type ones. And Wiz Khalifa was pretty clever for doing this particular type flair, just because the concept of just having a whole smokish type project is within like the breakfast type sense. I mean, not every single song on this particular project is meant for breakfast type flair with wake and bake as far as that pitch goes, but there's definitely some good ones on here that do kind of do that in particular. At least the first two songs you hear have that particular flair about it. We're Done's a pretty nice one. This has like a minorly known cameo from Demi Lovato on here, which is a pretty good pitch. Wiz Khalifa does a good job with this particular one. This is another one that feels like it could have been a single or had some commercial flair about it, I have to say. It's like a hazy kind of late day makeshift drear of a song, I'd have to say in particular. This has a good Demi Lovato cameo, like I was saying. This is just some pop rap flash for like a mixtape type flair, so it's a good example. This probably should have had a music video for it. I definitely would have said this could have had some good promotion. This is just some good makeshift back in like the early 2010s sort of stuff that Miley Cyrus and Demi Lovato and Ariana Grande were kind of doing in like 2011, 2010, 2012 as far as that pitch can go. So it's a good concept kind of get some of this. If you are looking for a little bit more work shift, just got done with class or works and pitches like that. This is some good hazy makeshift to kind of get within that sense. Wiz Khalifa does a pretty good job with this. Just an early taste of him getting ready to break out in 2011, pitches like that. Spotlight's a pretty nice one. This is like a city outing in like the evening wind, I'd have to say in particular. It's like some busy pizzazz, I would definitely have to say. And it's like a mellow kind of smoke a few cut, but it's pretty social, I'd have to say. So this is one of those ones that Mac Miller would do some pitches like that. Mac Miller, Wiz Khalifa, some of those type folks, maybe Big Sean, like a certain sense, just kind of being out and about within the city hopping pitches like that. I just would have to say just real pizzazz of just being outdoors, just within a more busy and social type sense, just a more bustling, just kind of more big city type sense. This would have to say in particular. It could even be residential. I just look after it, just kind of being more out and about, just not necessarily grounded in pitches like that. I'd have to say it was a good concept kind of get some of these, just some real good city pizzazz for just social activity, but then also being high as hell. It's a good concept. So that's definitely a nice one to kind of get. some of these songs do feel like a more evening type fare, more so than breakfast type fare, but I do feel like the wooziness for it, I do think some of these could work in the morning if you're just coming off of like a long night, some pitches like that, and just kind of city hopping maybe to get like some breakfast or some of those type pitches, but this kind of works for it. Never Been's a pretty nice one. I do like the production on this particular one. This is one of the few wintry type songs on here, I'd have to say, but I do like the pitch behind it. It's like an icy kind of drowsy day makeshift of a song, I'd have to say. This is like some solid winter music, like I was saying, definite good concept for that. And this is like a get ready to turn up type song, I'd have to say in particular, and smoke a few, I would definitely say. So this definitely feels like some just icy type music, I'd have to say. Never Been's pretty nice one to kind of get within that sense. Just some good concepts kind of have just for like some winter type fare, and just kind of just got done with work shift, I would have to say just the concept of just like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, this PM type malaise. Just kind of feels like some good concepts for that. Just getting ready to turn up and head out to a club. Maybe like the initial type stuff to hear in like a club. I do like some of these club type songs. I mean, Wiz Khalifa isn't full blown in the club as much on this particular project. I feel like songs like The Kid Frankie, a little bit of Up, and a little bit of Never Been are some nice ones for that particular type flair, but the club's kind of de-emphasized more just within the concept, just having like some just kind of more whimsical and wistful type atmospheres to kind of get with some of these, but they are social and they are some good makeshift type jurors as far as that pitch goes. That's some good concepts. Still Blazing's a pretty nice one. Do appreciate this one. It's like a woozy kind of summer dredge, I'd have to say in particular. It's like some good kickback after a long day, I would definitely have to say, and this would definitely be like a late day treat, I'd have to say, and this is a pretty dope song, so I definitely appreciate this one. It's a pretty basic type one. This one definitely has like some world music and kind of reggaeton type flair on there. It feels like a Marley's on this particular song, I'd have to say. Just a good concept kind of get this one, but it just feels like some wind down type music after a long day, some pitches like that. It's really like some evening haze. Once again, just some good concepts kind of get here. Good combination go with We're Done, and I'd probably say like maybe a little bit of Spotlight also, some of those type pitches, some of those particular type songs. Just some good ones to unwind to and just kick back and hang out, some pitches like that, just smoke a few after decent long work day as far as that pitch kind of goes. And then Visions is a nice one. This one reminds me of Rick Ross. This is a pretty soulful type song. It's like a soulful kind of get lifted tune, I'd have to say. It's pretty similar to Rick Ross vibes, like I was saying. Pretty good pitch for that. Definitely some of the vibes he had with Triple C's and the Deeper Than Rap days, I'd have to say in particular. Definitely some of those concepts. This is like a really stoned feel. This is definitely like a really stoned type song to really get to. Just smoking several, I'd have to say in particular. And this is just like a feel great kind of song. So I definitely appreciate the emphasis of this particular one. Definitely glad Wiz Khalifa had some of these real heavy smoke. It's not just 2 or 3 blunts or 2 or 3 joints, something like that. 2 or 3 blunts or 2 or 3 joints, something like that. But actually like full blown smoke sessions where you're going to smoke quite a bit. I'd have to say like an ounce or two, some of those type pitches. Excellent concepts to kind of get. That's the concept of this particular mixtape. So to talk about some of these 5 songs I didn't recommend as much on here, I'd have to say The Statement was just kind of one that I just didn't recommend as much, just because I didn't appreciate like the poor production value on that particular one. It was just kind of an awkward type one. Didn't really get the gesture what that song was really trying to be. I feel like Pedal to the Metal had a wasted Johnny Giuliano feature. I remember Johnny Giuliano kind of being like an up and coming rapper. He wasn't really on the song that much. It was just kind of a poor kind of commercial rap type song that just didn't really work quite as well. Just didn't work quite as wholesomely as it needed to. I think it was being like a lady song, but just didn't really get the good pitches to really doing that. It wasn't really like a smokish type one. I do like the fact that some lady songs were on here, but it just was not as appreciative of a song as probably what it needed to be. Good Dank was just a poor type one. This was just an overly lengthy type song. This didn't really do a good job of conveying like the smoking type vibes. This one was just like some summer dredge, just would have to say, just really stuck in like the summertime, but this was not a good example of like the production type fare on that one. Glass House was just a poor type posse type track. That one was just like a standard mixtape type cut that wasn't as much having to do with smoking. I like the fact that Currency and Big KRIT was on the song, but this was not a good example of an interesting enough flair to really get. And then Supply was kind of the same fare. I mean, this had probably one of the better productions out of the songs I didn't recommend, but it just was not quite as attractive of one to really how often I'd listen to it, I'd have to say. So me recommending 10 songs out of 15 on this particular mixtape, I'm going to go ahead and give this mixtape like an 8.25 out of 10. I definitely feel like that's pretty high grade as far as that pitching goes, especially like for some mixtape type fare, especially without a single, some pitches like that. Wiz Khalifa was a trending topic in 2010, pitches like that as far as that particular kind of went. This is a classic mixtape, one of the most downloaded mixtapes of all time on one of the biggest mixtape websites. DatPiff got over 1 million downloads. Definitely some Harada type stuff, worth the claim. pitches like that. It just really has some good appeal. It's just too bad it didn't have a single and pitches like that. And it's a pretty lo-fi project. It's just a lot more kind of down-tempo lo-fi type stuff, just a lot more just chill type music, not as much in your face and spastic. I'd have to say it's not like that's a bad concept, but it's just a little bit more reflexive. It's a little bit less reflexive and more relaxed. I'd have to say just more lazy type tone. That's typical for Wiz Khalifa type fare, but I just look after it. He's kind of similar to T.I., just in a more Stone Age type sense, I'd have to say. But there are some good moments on here. It's just the fact that it doesn't really have much promotion. It's just kind of the concept that just a couple of poor productions or awkward type songs, that I have to say. But it is a lot of great smoking songs for different formats, and even some good work shift and makeshift on here for different formats for just being out and about and bustling. I do like the fact that Wiz Khalifa is pretty active and has some good socializing just within the aspect of getting stoned and stuff, but not just really being around the crib and pitches like that. Just some good affluence of just city hopping and pitches like that, and even in the work shift type haze as far as that kind of goes. Good concept. So I'm going to go ahead and give the social score of this mixtape like an 8.75 out of 10. I feel like in particular it definitely has some social flash about it, definitely for some day outings and evening outings as far as that pitch gun goes, even some club type fare as far as that particular pitch gun goes along with it. Just some excellent stuff to kind of get here for like some socializing, just pitches of just being busy and busy-bodied and bustling as far as that particular pitch gun goes. A little bit of work shift, a little bit of IHOP type fare, some breakfast type fare, some pitches like that. Just overall good activity for like day, and not necessarily like midnight commerce and just after hours commerce for like demon time pitches like that, but just between like, I would say basically between about 3:30 and about 7:30, 8 p.m. some pitches like that, with the exception of like a 2 or 3 or 4 breakfast type tunes for smoking as far as that particular kind of goes. So some excellent concepts kind of get here. Just reason why it gets an 8.75 is because it didn't have a single. I don't know how much it didn't have a single. I don't know how much promotion it had pitches like that. It had in particular. It's a pretty good project. It's just kind of the fact that it's just as low key as it is, and I just don't know the overall promotional value of this particular project, I'd have to say. But it gets an 8.75. In terms of the future, like Wiz Khalifa's been kind of quiet lately. I know he's dropped at least a couple projects here and there, some pitches like that. I want to say like a mixtape recently. I don't know his full blown. I need to check up more on Wiz Khalifa. I'd have to say I'm going to get to some more of his projects like One Night in First Class, some of those type ones. But this is actually this is a pretty heralded mixtape here, and it does have some gems despite the lack of promotion. I do recommend it. It's got some real solitary stuff for some smokers and just like day commerce as far as that pitch goes along with that.